Hello wonderful person, this is Anton, and today we're going to be talking about this asteroid you see right here. The story of an asteroid that became the most dangerous asteroid detected in the last few decades, the asteroid known as 2022 AE1, that theoretically could produce a very large explosion and potentially cause a lot of damage on the planet. However, we got really lucky. Turns out that further calculations determined that it's actually not even going to hit planet Earth. In other words, we're going to be talking about an asteroid that became the most dangerous asteroid for just a few days. So let's talk a little bit more about this, and about how all of this is measured and detected, and also talk a little bit more about where you can learn more about these dangerous asteroids and the scale we usually use to measure their potential danger. Let's actually start with the scale itself. Today, in terms of the hazard, the asteroids are usually classified on one of two scales. There is the Palermo scale, which is a lot more technical and a lot more accurate, and the Torino scale that's slightly more simple and slightly easier to understand. But most scientists studying asteroids normally use the Palermo scale. And the way that it sort of assesses asteroids is by assigning a number between a negative number and a positive number. So for example, an asteroid whose Palermo scale is -2 will most likely have no effect on planet Earth at all. As a matter of fact, it's going to be impossible to tell when it hits the planet, even if it does hit the planet. Whereas an asteroid with a scale of +2 is going to have approximately 100 times more effect on the planet than a typical background collision. In other words, it's a pretty dangerous event. In more realistic terms, any asteroid with a scale of -2 or lower, so -3, -4 and so on, is generally ignored. Anything with a scale of between -2 and 0 will often be monitored for a long period of time and is generally assumed to possess some sort of a hazard to the planet. And anything between 0 and a positive value is of course dangerous. For example, the iconic Apophis asteroid that we've actually discussed in one of the previous videos, you should be able to find somewhere right there or in the description below, at some point had the Palermo scale of 1.12, meaning that it was considered to be quite dangerous. But some of the recent recalculations that I've discussed in that video suggest that it's actually not dangerous at all anymore. As a matter of fact, the asteroid with the highest Palermo value right now is the asteroid Bennu that NASA recently used for its asteroid retrieval mission, and the value for Bennu is -1.41, suggesting that it should be observed, but it's very likely not going to collide with the planet anytime soon. But if it did collide with the planet, it's going to cause serious damage, with the other asteroid with a relatively similar value of -1.42 being this one right here, known as 1950 DA. But in January of 2022, automatic calculations and observations from various observatories detected another asteroid, and once again the Palermo scale here was -1.5. And actually just a day after its original discovery on January 7th, the Columbia University's Asteroid Orbit Determination Project tagged this asteroid as a potentially hazardous asteroid with maybe an impact in the future. And generally this system is already automated. It essentially observes the skies, it looks for various new objects, tries to calculate their orbits, and if by some chance an orbit of a new object seems to intercept planet Earth sometime in the future or approaches planet Earth relatively close, it's automatically reported to various scientists across the world in order to determine if it's actually going to collide with the planet. And you can actually explore pretty much most of this by yourself by using this link in the description below. This is the European Space Agency's Near-Earth Object Coordination Center, and it does have a relatively large list of near-Earth asteroids that we're currently tracking, and even shows us the objects that are currently close to planet Earth, as well as explaining some other detail in how all of this is calculated and what tools are used to assess the risk. So here is actually the most recent list, with this relatively recent asteroid known as 2021 QM1 currently having the highest assessed risk, -2.7 on the Palermo scale. But the chance of collision here is only 1 in over 3,000, and so it's most likely not even going to happen. And the asteroid with the highest chance of collision, approximately 1 in 14, is this one right here that's approximately 8 meters in size. It's actually a little bit smaller than the Chelyabinsk meteor, with the collision possibly happening in 2095. So not really something we're going to be worrying about anytime soon. But then suddenly in January we had this. And the risk here was the highest so far, with the potential impact happening in 2023, July 4th as a matter of fact, potentially creating the largest Independence Day firework in history. But jokes aside though, as soon as this asteroid was detected, several observatories located in several regions of the planet and pretty much covered the entire globe continued monitoring this asteroid in order to determine the potential risk of a collision next year. And it just so happens that within just a few days, every observatory was confirming the same. The risks were actually growing larger and larger. And suddenly, it was right on top of that risk list I showed you earlier, with a potential cumulative risk of -1, and the chance of collision being 1 in approximately 2400. But after 7 days of observations and after determining the potential risk here, something else happened that suddenly created a lot of uncertainty and chaos for the scientists observing this asteroid. It suddenly came way too close to the full moon, and the moon kind of made it impossible to observe this, mostly because it was outshining the potential impactor. And so future observations became impossible for over a week because of the moon's brightness. And because the asteroid was also moving away, it was becoming dimmer, making all of this even more difficult. But nevertheless, the scientists were waiting for the moment when the moon is no longer bright enough. And once it was dim enough, they pointed their telescopes to finally have a little bit of relief. Turns out that the asteroid was actually moving in a slightly different direction and is not actually going to be even coming that close to our planet in 2023 either. It's going to pass at a distance of approximately 10 million kilometers. Which is of course precisely why this particular asteroid is no longer on that risk list I showed you earlier. It was removed almost right away. And right now we don't really know where it's going or what's actually going to happen to it, and we're not going to know this until maybe 2 or 3 more observations, but it's just quite clear that it's not going to be hitting our planet anytime soon. Nevertheless though, the story here is very important, for one simple reason. First of all, it shows us how extremely complex our detection system has become, especially since 2013 when Earth did experience a really large explosion in Chelyabinsk in Russia. And so in order to prevent future disasters of same caliber happening in even more dense environment in some kind of a major metropolis, a lot of different agencies have organized an automated system to observe any potential collider, to report them, and to then even try to organize some kind of a mission in order to maybe possibly prevent them from colliding with the planet. Now that second part we still don't really know how to do just yet. But that's precisely what NASA's recently launched DART mission is going to try to learn more about by trying to slightly redirect a relatively large asteroid. We're of course going to talk more about this once this mission occurs in a few years from now, and we'll also discuss some more dangerous asteroids in some of the future videos as well. But until some of the new discoveries and until some other asteroid out there that endangers our planet, that is all I wanted to mention. Thank you for watching, subscribe if you still haven't, share this with someone who has learned about space and sciences, and maybe come back tomorrow to learn something else. Maybe support this channel on Patreon by joining channel membership or by buying the Wonderful Person t-shirt you can find in the description. Stay wonderful, I'll see you tomorrow, and as always, bye bye.